the Commissioner. Commissioner Rob Rogers first became involved with the New South Wales Rural Fire Service back in 1979 as a volunteer member of the Belrose Rural Fire Brigade, before then being appointed Deputy Fire Control Officer for the Greater Taree District in the mid-90s. Little known fact, before all of that, his first job was actually as a roofer. Other little known fact is that he left school at just 14 years old. He's gone on to hold various executive roles in the RFSS since 2001, and in 2011 appointed Deputy Commissioner, formally appointed to the role of Commissioner in mid-2020. He was awarded the National Medal in 1995 and the Australian Fire Service Medal in 2004. As you've already heard, after 5 years as Commissioner, he's announced that he will be retiring this year, marking the conclusion, as you've just heard from the Minister, of a distinguished 45-year career dedicated to safeguarding the communities of this state. Another fun fact that I managed to find out is that the Commissioner's favourite band of all time is Cold Chisel, the great Cold Chisel. I just hope that his favourite song isn't Flame Trees, because that would be a bit of an awkward one. Ladies and gentlemen, the last plane out of Tamworth's almost gone. Please welcome Commissioner Rob Rogers, AFSM.
Thanks, Andrew. I don't mind Flame Trees, actually. It's a pretty good song, I also just want to thank Uncle Len for the welcome to country, and it's a special part of the world here, and I do enjoy coming to Tamworth. Just a beautiful place, particularly when there's a bit of greenery around, really nice. Minister, thank you for being here. Your local member, Kevin Anderson, thank you, Andrew, for being here. RFSA President Scott Campbell and CEO Sharon Ellicott, RFSA board members and representatives, and of course volunteers and staff who are what makes up the RFS. I just want to also firstly extend my thanks to the RFSA for organising yet another outstanding conference. And I understand this is the first time they've done it themselves, run it themselves, and so congratulations, because you know, I think it's as good, if not better, than what's been done before. So congratulations to the team, because it's great. And I think that the conference like this that brings our people together to look at new technology, to talk about what works in their area, and that collaboration. And that's what really is all about, because it's that collaboration, new technology, new ways of doing business that shapes the future of RFS, and that's where things like this become really important. I think it's inspiring also to see where the RFSA has come from. From its humble beginnings in 1996 that grew from the Fire Control Officers Association. For those of you that remember those days, the FCOA was the only organisation, and it was obviously about fire control officers, the district staff at the time, which again showing my age because I was a member of the FCOA as well. But to see what it's grown into, those people who some of them are not around anymore, but the people that were instrumental in getting the RFSA up and running would be so proud of what it's become. Because it's become it's a giant of an organisation. There is no organisation like the RFSA to the same level anywhere else in this country. I guess like the RFS, it's the biggest in the country, but the RFSA is also the biggest and most powerful in this country. The partnership between RFS and RFSA is absolutely critical, because it becomes one of those things where you working together on things can just make such a difference. So I want to just take this moment of thanking Scott, the team, all of the RFSA on the support that you've given me in my time as Commissioner. Whether it's in times of crisis, as Scott mentioned about the work that goes on of supporting our members who are on front lines, about simple things like cups of coffee, clean T-shirts, things like that. Doesn't sound much, but for those people that are out there that are in wet, stinking, dirty places, to just be able to have someone say, here, something clean and here's a cup of coffee to just sort of warm you up, makes a huge difference. So I just want to thank the RFSA for that ongoing support of our members in the field. And the commitment to the welfare and support of our members is enduring from the RFSA. We work together in those areas, but when you look at things like sponsorship of state championships, the cadet championships, young members group, education scholarships, brigade grant schemes, family days, supporting the chaplains, counselling and family services, and the RFSA Welfare Fund to support members during challenging times, they are absolutely tangible things that get done from the RFSA to make, again, a big difference to our people. So the RFSA obviously not advocates for its members, but also plays an active role in strengthening the RFS. The contributions through the consultative committees ensure both volunteers and staff are empowered, supported and heard. The RFSA continues to be a strong and passionate voice for our members, and for that I am truly grateful. I'm proud to be a member of the RFSA and hope to continue to be a member of the RFSA even when I finish as Commissioner. Minister, I just want to thank you for sorting out that workers' compensation whole and person impairment. I know you and your team have been working to get that fixed. It has been something that's obviously difficult to try and keep people focused on. There'll be a solution. And I know Scott has been absolutely tireless advocating as well for that. And I just want to thank you for your leadership in government in bringing that to bear to make sure that our volunteer members get the support they deserve. As was mentioned by Kevin and our Minister, the things that government needs to do is to provide you with the equipment and the support to make sure that you can continue doing that work that you do without fear that if something goes wrong, that you won't be supported. And this is an important milestone to show that support's there. And that comes from the strength of the RFSA to be that advocacy group in unashamedly hassling people like the Minister to say, we want this fixed for our members. And for people, you know, it's just a few sentences saying that this is fixed, but the work that goes behind the scenes from both the Minister, RFSA, and indeed RFS to try and make sure that gets advocated and that the scheme, that gets rolled out can be administered appropriately. And there's been literally dozens and dozens of people behind the scenes working to make sure that works. So I just want you to understand it's not a simple thing. These things, you've got a government that's also dealing with significant budget pressures, and that's a reality of life. And every single government agency has to obviously deal with that and manage within its budget as best we can. In RFS, we're doing a lot of things internally to try and free up additional money to say, how can we do something a bit more efficient, to free up money for things like critical programs, things like fire control centre stations and fire trails. And that work will continue after I leave, because these are the things we have to do to try and use our money as best we can to support our people. So that work will continue, but I do just want to thank Minister, the announcement. It's really important, and these are things that make a huge difference in people's lives who are going through some pretty tough circumstances. So that's our obligation to help those people. As I reflect on my time in the RFS, I guess the one thing that stands out and has always stood out is our people. Our people are the people that we can bring in all the technology and all the things we do, but at the end of the day, it's our people that make those things work. And when I became Commissioner, I outlined some priorities and my view on those priorities were about things that make a difference to our frontline people. And that's our frontline volunteers and staff. and that's to make sure that they can do their job, they get the equipment to do it, and we make our firefighters as safe as possible. The very core premise of the RFS and everything we do should be about the fact that someone that steps on a truck in the morning for a shift, we do absolutely everything possible to make sure they come home to their families safe at night. And the things that keep me awake at night is that particular issue, is trying to make sure that we do everything we can, and myself and my colleagues, my executive team, are very singularly focused on that, is what are the things we can do to make things safer. But we can't do that alone, and we don't do that alone. We have things like the consultative committees where we talk about things, talk about priorities, and make sure what we're doing is resonating with the brigade members out there. Because we can sit there and have a view on something, but if it doesn't hit the mark in brigades, then it's all for nothing. So that level of advocacy from the RFSA in those consultative committees and telling us what works, what doesn't, is absolutely critical. And you need to keep doing that. And you need to do it because you need to hold RFS and indeed the government to account to help support, deliver on the things that are important to you. I guess the future challenges for the RFS, when you think about it, the RFS started as a bushfire organisation. And today, and I think the Minister spoke about it, the different types of incidents that RFS attends, and road crash rescues, house fires, supporting SES in floods, our helicopters doing flood rescue from the air, and our people, both volunteer and staff, training up to that really high level. And even more recently, more medical calls that we do, almost 2,000 medical calls a year that RFS goes to assisting ambulance. Now that might be from assisting lift of ambulance, recovery of people, but also sustaining life until professional paramedics get on scene to take over. And these people are people in your communities. It could even be your friends, family. So I think there's been such good work, and whilst that you can't save everyone, but I know of numbers of dozens of cases where RFS brigades have kept people alive that would have otherwise died. And when you think about that, making a difference on the life and death of someone in your communities is pretty powerful, and having that ability to help that person get the best possible chance they can have to survive is incredibly rewarding for people. And I know you don't join for rewards, but you join to do for your community. And that's the sort of thing you do. You continue to do for your community. And I think that evolution is something that is about the RFS changing from what it used to what it does now. And everybody has to change and everybody evolves. And I know sometimes change is difficult. And I know some people long for the bygone days when we drove blitzers and we did everything ourselves and fixed them, and we just got on with it. And those days were appropriate for the time they were. But in 2025, it's a different world and we're a different service. So our focus on safety, our use of technology is obviously improving. Things that we put in place when you start thinking about things like the active call-out app, the MDTs, the satellite connectivity, the CAD, the centralised dispatch of all brigades that now speeds up the response of our brigades, significantly improves the work-life balance for our district staff as well. So some of those are significant changes that we've gone through in the last 5 years. And I believe the service is a much better place for that. We haven't seen the full benefit of all those changes yet because they're all still rolling out. But in coming years, when we have major fires and we have communication black spots that we can get past by use of satellite. We will know where all of our trucks are. When fires start doing silly things, we can make sure we can get to those people and make sure, again, they stay safe. Because, again, that's what it's all about. And I think that to evolve and change is something that will continue to happen with the RFS. And I guess when you start thinking about change and the reluctance sometimes to change, I wonder if those same people that don't like to change still have Betamax video recorders and are still turning up at the Blockbuster waiting for it to open. So life itself changes and we need to change with it. And I think embracing change is a good thing, but it's got to have a tangible outcome, of course. Not change for change's sake, change for something better. So when something comes along, the question you should ask is not about why, what I don't want to do this, but more about what change is it going to make to what I do for my community. And if you can answer that question and say, yeah, I can see that, then I think you should embrace that change. But if it's just something for tokenistic sake, then be like me, be cynical of it. You've got to have that for something good. As I mentioned, continue to operate within a difficult financial pressures, and we'll continue to evolve to make sure that we still meet our commitments, but making sure we do it as best we can. We saw this week the Public Accounts Committee release their report into the assets, premises and funding of RFS, and it made 14 recommendations. Some of them are about the transfer of the Red Fleet to state ownership from local government where it is now. And there's also things about new stations and the like. Now, those matters are matters for government to consider now for its response, because government hasn't yet responded to that. But I think that if you look at those issues and how that's played out, and I'd encourage you to get on and read the report in full. It's been tabled now, so it's publicly available. I think it's inevitable that there is a change coming as far as that's concerned, and I'm not preempting a government decision. No government decisions were made, but I'm just giving you my view that, and I can do that as I'm leaving, so I can say these things. I think there's inevitability that that will change. So that again will be, it doesn't sound a lot, but the things that come behind that about the maintenance and the servicing of all those vehicles is significant. It's a significant challenge for the RFS, and I think probably from an internal point of view will rival the staff transfer to RFS of 2001. I also just want to talk a little bit about something that does bother me is the growing backlog of hazard reduction work. We know, and when I say the growing backlog, that's not from the sake of criticising people, because it has been raining, as we know. But I am concerned about that against the backdrop of potentially going back into a drier period, because we've been in a few years of wet, but we know that will turn. It will change and it'll turn. And we're not keeping up with the burning program. We're doing as much as we can mechanical clearing to try and compensate for that lack of burning, but we started to see, and indeed, and if we go back, and the Minister was there with me in the South Coast only 4 years after the 2019-20 fires down in the Bega area, where areas reburnt, and they reburnt very hot 4 years after that, after those fires. So, I think what we also need to say is that I think it's fair to say that what we've been doing hasn't been working. It didn't work up until the 2019-20 fires. And I'm concerned, whilst we're trying to get this work done, I'm concerned that it isn't working now. And I think we're going to have to look at a different way of doing this. And I know some incredibly smart people in the RFS, led by Simon Heemstra, has been looking at that and what we can do differently. And they're things that will be looked at very seriously in going forward. So, but whenever you can, please get out and do some burns, because we need to do that. And our approach to things like fire detection, suppression and impact mitigation also continue to evolve. And indeed, I think it's next year, the X Prize Challenge about satellite detection of fires. And Peter McKechnie's been heading that project and looking at trying to detect fires from satellite, not wait for 000 calls. And things like that are the things that, when climate change, brings hotter and drier fire seasons, if we get a bit of an edge by getting to understand when fires start straight away, then we can get to them quicker. These are the types of things we've got to do to try and make sure we stay ahead of the curve. But technology aren't going to replace courage, intuition, or local knowledge of our firefighters. But it can absolutely help enhance it, and that's what we've got to focus on. The right tools in the right hands make us safer, smarter, and more agile. We've got things, as mentioned, and I know the team's here, the CAD team's here. We've got AVL, Athena, AI-driven platform, the first of its type in this country. The satellite technology, AFDRS, the new fire danger rating system. Well, it's not that new now, it's been out a few years, but again, created and led by RFS people. Some very, very smart RFS people that rolled that out throughout the whole country. It's a pretty powerful acknowledgement about the professionalism and how this agency is seen. And obviously we've done some more work on getting tenure blind, hazard complaints, and trying to make sure that we again look at hazards that people are raising. But we've got to keep doing that. It's not that's never going to be a thing saying we've ticked the box on that. We always need to keep moving forward. And again, I think we also need to make sure we think about what does an RFS volunteer look like in the future. We've got to make sure the sense of inclusion that you feel, that I've felt in the RFS, continues to be there in a sustainable way of going forward. Because there's a difference in communities nowadays. We're seeing different people moving from different areas. We've got demographics, some of the rural areas where people are leaving those smaller rural areas and going to regional centres or cities. And that's things we have to plan for now, because it's going to change the face of firefighting in those areas, because the people that are still there aren't getting any younger. And so we've got to think about how do we deal with this in the background of obviously more frequent disasters. So I think what we've got to really think about is just a couple of examples. So our largest cohort of members are aged 60 years plus. If you think about it, so the largest group are 60 years plus in the RFS. So it's 40%. That's a lot of people. And then just 14% are below 30. And we've got 24% of our members are women, but only 6% hold leadership roles. So that's something, again, we've got to change, and we've got to make sure that our RFS is reflective of the communities we serve. So I think that when you start thinking about, we've got to make sure that there's a home and people feel welcome, regardless of their background, where they're from, their particular sexual orientation. Fires don't care about that. Why should we? And we shouldn't. So we need to constantly keep rethinking how we engage, recruit, train and support our people. And that's why RFS has been developing a more flexible and inclusive model of volunteering, multiple pathways for people involved, including non-firefighting roles such as communications, catering, community education. And that's why we've also launched the inclusion strategy, You Belong, no matter what your background is. And that's a really important thing. It's not asking you to do anything different than just be as welcoming to people that may coming from a different background as you would anybody else. So, and again, this is important. I think some of the other things about thinking about where we have our brigades and planning to get more capacity. Recently, we opened a brigade in Kalara in North Shore of Sydney. And I think things like that, where we look at capitalising more on where the population growth is to make sure that those people have that surge capacity in major fires to go to other parts of the state where the people may not be so numerous, is something we have to do. We've recommitted to our collaboration with farmers through the farm fire units, recognising the critical role that farmers play in remote fire response. And again, particularly in this demographic change, it's about common sense, connecting back with farmers that I think we moved away from. It wasn't anything farmers did, it was us, and trying to reverse that. And I think there's been some great work from Heath and Jason McKellar to try and get that all back on track, and I think we've got a great relationship now. Training modernised, online modules, practical scenario-based exercises, hybrid models to allow volunteers to train at their own pace. All are about trying to make sure that we give opportunities to people joining the RFS to be as flexible as they need us to be. And I think partnerships and collaboration are also things we've got to continue to do. We're working very closely with people like the VRA to help them. They're on our dispatch system, on our radio system. We support them to make sure they can continue doing the work they do, because at the end of the day, they're helping the same communities you're in. So continuing to do that. And the long-term membership commitment to get that next generation of people. I've seen some incredibly motivated young people who've been part of the young members group, but also just a young, keen RFS members. And we need to just encourage those people, because if we could bottle that enthusiasm and send it around the state, we'll be in really good shape. And I think, and as Scott mentioned about the behaviour stuff, culture of safety and respect, and that is a zero tolerance on things like bullying and harassment, and ensuring mental health and well-being of our people remain a priority. And I'll say to you, I don't care if someone's a volunteer or a staff member. If they step over the line, they will be held accountable for it. Because we've got to do that. You can't expect everybody to behave appropriately if we allow for others to do it. And I include myself in that. And I think what you have to also do, when you start to want to change culture, it's no good you sitting here, someone like me, saying, I'm all pious here and I'm pure. No, there's things that I've said in the past and done in the past that doesn't pass muster in 2025. And I've changed and adapted to make sure that I reflect those values that we have now. And all I'll ask is for you to do the same and call on all your colleagues to do that as well, because it's critical for the future of our RFS to make sure that we treat everybody with respect. The establishment of the Benevolent Fund is also one of the most meaningful investments that's been made about supporting our members, not just with words, but with enduring support for our people and their families. And we recently welcomed Scott onto the board of that. And I know Scott will be absolutely advocating for members on that group. I guess some final words. I think the future will bring new and complex challenges. We don't know what they all are yet, but I know there will be these challenges. And sometimes you'll face really tough things and you'll look at it and think, I can't see how I'm going to get past this. But you know what? You will, because that's what RFS does. We always overcome challenges, and one way or another we'll get past those things. And as JFK once said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. And that's pretty well a motto of RFS, isn't it? When you think about leadership and learning, because we're a learning organisation. Must keep the pressure on, continue to innovate, adapt and evolve to ensure that the RFS remains relevant, keeps our members at the centre of everything we do, and is equipped to protect the communities of New South Wales in the future. And I think from an RFSA point of view, as I said before, you need to hold the RFS Commissioner to account, and you need to hold the government to account, irrespective of what particular government is in at the time, because that's your prime motivation is for your members, and that means sometimes disagreeing with people. That might be the RFS, it might be the government, but so be it. That's what you're there for. But I do want to thank the RFSA for your valued support and partnership, and I just want to, I guess, say to you, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but please make sure you embrace change, be bold. But I want to thank you for everything that you do, and those people that aren't here today and maybe watching online, thank you for everything you do. Your dedication, your resilience, your unwavering commitment don't go unnoticed. I see it, I value it, and I'm genuinely proud and grateful to be your commissioner, and it's been an honour to work alongside you, and I have an incredible amount of memories over my 45 years in the RFS, but I do look forward to seeing how the RFS of tomorrow is stronger than today, more inclusive, more capable and more united on our mission to protect the people of New South Wales. Thank you.